trees. She had no people as kin, being, as she had known as far back as any child learns of the world about, one of those strange mixtures of blood and breed which added to the general difference of Kuxortal. Also knowing that her very strangeness made her vulnerable, and so disguising that strangeness as best she could. She had been fetcher and errand runner for Furwar, until the mists of the riverside burrow bit so far into old one's crippled bones that her body at last gave up its spirit essence. Simsa it had been who dragged that light, twisted body down to the underholes and heaped over it there the cover-stones. Furwar had had no kin, and was somewhat shunned even by the burrow-dwellers, for she was learned in strange ways, some of which might be profitable, others hinting of danger. That Simsa was blood-kin to herself Furwar had denied. However, it was true that she never beat the child with her staff, much as she lashed out with an acid and biting tongue. Also, she passed on to Simsa much which would have surprised even a guild lord had one known where or what lived in the burrows beneath his own palace of plenty. The burrowers were perhaps the least and lowliest of Kuxortal dwellers. They scooped out their dwellings from the mass of former buildings, sometimes being lucky enough to break into a cellar or a passage which could have been a long-forgotten street, roofed over by buildings fallen during some raider assault before the dawn of time. Things could be found in burrows, things worth trading, especially to the starmen, who seemed to take a perverse interest in broken bits which meant nothing to any denizen of Kuxortal. So such finds were close-held secrets, and even among the burrowers there were strongly defended treasure houses. Simsa had her talents. Her agility had served her many times. Over and over she practiced ever with her lean body the twists, turns, and certain grips which Furwar's hands, cramped even as they were by the painful crippling, had patiently shown her. As a burrower she was small, though 2 seasons after the death of Furwar she had suddenly shot up like a well-watered thrum vine. It was in that same season that she had changed her style of drab clothing, for Furwar had been emphatic with certain warnings for the future. The loose smock she had always worn over breeches, which had left her legs free for running and dodging, was not laid aside. However, under it she had wound a strip of stout surecloth tightly about her body from waist up, constraining her breasts to give her still a childish flatness. That was a precaution she need only take with strangers. To those who know her, her own natural weapons made her untouchable. Simsa's skin was black, a deep bluish black. In night darkness she could pad through any street which had no large number of lamps with a spirit's invisibility. On the other hand, her hair, which she now wore confined and covered with another length of cloth, was pure silver light, as were her brows and lashes. Those she disguised with sooty fingers rubbed on a fire-pot before she ventured out as she did, reveling in her ability to conceal herself. She had her own form of steady livelihood, one begun when she had found a broken-winged zorsal fluttering out its life on a waterside rubbish heap. Those mounds often provided unexpected finds for Furwar. The zorsal had tried to bite. Its sharp-edged jaws were strong enough to take a finger off a full-grown man. Simsa had not stretched forth any hand at first, had only squatted down beside the injured creature, crooning to it in a small guttural sound which came from far down in her throat, and which she had never made before. At that moment it had just come to her naturally as fit and right. As the zorsal's first hissing and snapping subsided, and it settled down to watch her with huge, round, night-seeing eyes, the girl had perceived that it was a female, its furred body heavy with young. Perhaps it had broken out of some warehouse cage, striving to find a place in freedom in which to nest and bear its coming brood. Though Simsa had had no reason in her short life to trust or show any liking for another living creature, her bond with Furwar being one of respect, awe, and more than a little straight wariness, she sensed now within